Please welcome the founder of travel blog Deafinitely Wanderlust, Marlene Valle.
Hello, I am Marlene. I'm a deaf person from Los Angeles who loves to travel. For as long as I can remember, I've always loved the idea of exploring the world. With today's discussion focusing on the topic, what is the travel industry that we want to build on the other side of this crisis? I hope that sharing my experience with travel will help open your minds to deaf awareness and to the difficulties of an industry globally designed for hearing and able-bodied travelers. At age 18, I started Googling different areas that were intriguing to me and created a document that I titled Dream of a Lifetime. Initially, I realized that I had internalized fears that I had heard from others. How was I going to travel if I wasn't able to hear everything? How would I be able to navigate airports or communicate with local peoples who use different languages than I did, and so on and so forth. In 2014, after taking a few domestic trips within the United States, I decided to take a leap of faith and made plans to go backpacking internationally with a friend of mine who's also deaf. This unlocked the rich experiences of travel that were so stimulating and exciting that they far surpassed any fears that I might have felt. I soon wanted more, much more. I wanted to see the world. In 2015, I launched my blog, Deafinitely Wanderlust, with the goal of destigmatizing deaf travelers, provide helpful resources, and create a space for both deaf and hearing communities to learn together. For those of you in the travel industry, designing experiences for deaf and hard of hearing travelers should start by including us. I'm asking the travel industry to pay attention to my story as a deaf traveler because I believe that if you want to build something that's truly open to everyone, my story could share some ideas and some tips that you might not have considered yet. Oftentimes, it's the simplest details that can help make our travel experience accessible. For example, what if I were to tell you that connecting with people doesn't always have to be through spoken language? On a trip to Mongolia in 2018, my deaf partner and I were invited by a local family to help them set up their ger, a circular yurt structure, at a local festival. The family saw me watching them setting up, and they spoke to me at first, but I gestured to them that I don't hear, and instead of saying, "Never mind," they gestured to me to come over to them with a smile. They continued to gesture to indicate which items needed to be picked up and moved in order to help them set up their ger. I was then invited to come back to eat dinner with the family as they gestured to me time by pointing to their wrist, eat by patting their stomach, and to come with them. That evening turned into dinner. We communicated through gestures and through a Google Translation app. Looking back, memorable experiences like these weren't rare for me. And even though they weren't perfect, they weren't 100% accessible, the connection between diverse human beings was genuine. It was incredibly meaningful for me in that instance that we were both making the effort to communicate, not just me. Through travel, and because of the many incredible experiences like these, my deaf identity has been solidified. I've learned to trust myself and to leave behind the societal beliefs about deaf people when traveling. I am deaf, and I can navigate the world. The lesson here for the travel industry is a simple one: communicate. It seems so basic, but to put in an effort to have clear, two-way communication is crucial. And, more importantly, ask the person what their preferred mode of communication is. It could be written, gestures, lip reading, involving a sign language interpreter, or some combination of these. Planning is crucial for any person with accessibility needs. Share information before the trip, whether you work for a hotel, an airline, or a tour company. Mention accessibility on your website, what accessible features you have, and welcome us to contact you regarding accommodations or to provide feedback on accessibility. Failing to mention any of this at all makes anyone with an accessibility need feel excluded. From missed train announcements that I don't hear, which cause me to miss a stop or a connection, to museums or tours that are entirely auditory based, to videos that have no captions. For me, moments like these are just the tip of the iceberg. It can be surprising when things do work out, however. Many years ago, I had a swamp tour scheduled at Honey Islands in New Orleans, Louisiana. I contacted the tour company, the Cajun Encounters Swamp Tour, a few weeks prior, asking whether or not they would be able to assign an American Sign Language interpreter. To my surprise, they did so without any hesitation. This was amazing, and what's even more shocking is that my deaf friend and I were their very first ever deaf visitors. Our request was not met with ifs, buts, maybes, or can'ts, and it made our experience incredibly memorable. Another accessible moment that I appreciated was when a flight attendant understood my needs for communication when I gave her a handwritten note explaining that I needed to change seats on my flight. There have been a number of instances I've experienced where staff members will speak to me or insist that I read their lips rather than writing notes. But this flight attendant immediately respected my preferred method of communication, and we were able to take care of my seat change. Like so many moments of travel, it's people taking care of travelers who create that feeling of safety, excitement, or connection. Designing accessibility from the start and training employees to respond appropriately is essential for equity and for a better travel experience for everyone. So again, when I'm thinking about the topic, what is the industry we want to build on the other side, and how can we truly be open to everyone? I have this to say. Traveling isn't challenging for me because I'm deaf. It's challenging because the travel industry is still globally designed for hearing and able-bodied travelers. With workers now wearing face masks, deaf and hard of hearing travelers are no longer able to read lips or to see your facial expressions, which are a crucial survival tool for many of us. This has only made larger accessibility issues in the travel industry more apparent. The industry can and should do better by gathering feedback, making plans, and creating partnerships with accessibility organizations, starting by hiring more deaf and hard of hearing people in the industry, which will make it truly open to everyone. Only together can we make tourism accessible. And as Haben Girma, a deafblind lawyer and advocate, has said, accessibility is not charity. As one human being to another, this shouldn't be something to simply check off a list either. Rather, this is a human right. Thank you.